Today, we have a really complex mission ahead of us. We're going to try and analyze the end of a true cultural phenomenon, something that really defined a whole generation of TV.
Yeah.
We are deep diving into the finale of Stranger Things.
And this wasn't just, another season finale. This was a moment. The pressure on the creators must have been just monumental. How do you even begin to land a story that means so much to so many people? You're not just dealing with plot points, but all this emotional baggage the audience brings with them.
That's the perfect way to put it. And our goal here isn't just to recap what happened. We want to look at the specific choices the Duffer Brothers made, the choices that left the ending in this really peculiar place. It was a huge success, obviously, but it just didn't quite hit that masterpiece status, did it?
Not quite. It landed somewhere in that good-ish category, like a solid go for it, but not perfection. And we have to frame this correctly. For a show that runs this long, failure is almost the default. It's so hard to get right. When you have an audience that has spent years, literal years, building up their own theories, growing up with the characters, perfection becomes almost impossible. Shows like Breaking Bad or maybe Dark, those are the exceptions. They're the ones that somehow manage to stick that perfect landing.
Okay. Let's unpack this, starting right there with that challenge, the sheer longevity of the show. How did the fact that the audience basically grew up with these characters change everything?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. You have viewers who started watching this in their early 20s, maybe even college. By the time it ended, they're pushing 30. They spent their entire formative adult years with these kids in Hawkins.
So it's not just a show anymore.
Exactly. It's a nostalgic anchor. Every decision feels personal because you've invested so much time. It's part of your own life story, in a way.
And while that's happening, the internet is just churning out theory after theory. It created this whole separate mythology, a fan-driven world that the real ending could never, ever live up to.
Precisely. The online community built this immense universe of what could be. You had all these wild theories, remember? Like the one where it was all in their minds, or that the whole thing was some psychological game Mike and Will were playing.
Yeah, the really deep philosophical takes.
Right. And then when the show gives you a very real, very physical, interdimensional war, it just can't compete with those more esoteric ideas that fans have been cooking up for years.
Which makes you ask, was Stranger Things ever really built for that kind of philosophical weight? I mean, at its core, it was always just brilliant, high-quality entertainment with fantastic characters, right?
Absolutely correct. The magic was always the characters. The banter, the chemistry, their heart, that's why people got so attached. But the finale, I think it tried to be something more. It was trying to resolve this cosmic horror thing and all the emotional arcs at once. And maybe it tried to be a bit more groundbreaking than its own rules allowed.
So let's talk about the architecture of it all, the narrative cohesion, tying up, 7 or 8 years of loose ends versus the actual pacing of that finale.
Well, functionally, you have to give them credit. They did manage to weave almost everything into a single thread. They connected things all the way back to season 1, episode 1. So by the end, you definitely felt a sense of completion. It felt intentional.
But just because it felt connected doesn't mean it actually was,
Right.
right? This is that logical flaw caveat.
Exactly. The emotional payoff is there, but if you start pulling at the threads, the mythology, it kind of unravels. It feels like a lot of it was retconned. Things like how Eleven's powers work. Suddenly, she can do things she never could before. Or the whole history of Vecna. It felt like they were building the bridge as they were running across it.
Which is common, I guess, for a show that runs this long. And it makes that little detail about how this all started even more surprising, this massive world-ending war. And it all came from, a single rock.
That one detail really says it all. It shows how the show pivoted from this small, contained horror story into this Avengers-level blockbuster. The whole saga traces back to that first tiny breach in the lab, and by the end, that original cause is completely irrelevant.
Let's talk about the pacing of that final episode, because it was huge, over 2 hours long. How did that runtime affect how people felt about the stakes?
This is where you see their priorities so clearly. The finale was really two different things mashed together. The first half is your big action horror movie. It's the climax, the big fight, the villain's defeat.
And then after all that, there was still almost an hour left. An hour of just
pure emotional wrap-up. Every single character's personal story, every relationship, every reunion, it all gets tied up in a neat bow. The kinetic energy of the battle just dissolves into this long, almost epilogue-style drama. And that choice is why the stakes felt so strangely low in the end.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting. This is the core critique, right? Playing it too safe, The fight felt small, and the stakes felt, well, non-existent.
Totally. The death dilemma. That was the loudest complaint by far. You have characters going into other dimensions, fighting monsters in situations that, certain death, and the death count was minimal.
And the one person who did die.
Was, by most fan accounts, the least important one. The one whose death wouldn't really destabilize that core found family. It just deflated the tension. The audience wanted to feel like something was truly lost, that the victory came at a real cost.
But wait, isn't that the whole point of the show? The characters. I mean, isn't protecting your darlings, giving them a happy ending, the most responsible choice for an IP this massive?
That's the counterargument, and it's a valid one. Maybe they avoided a sad ending because they felt the audience earned a happy one after all these years. Or, from a business perspective, you keep your main characters alive for potential spin-offs. But the critical consensus is that by choosing stability over stakes, they settled for a good ending when they could have had a legendary one.
And what about the villains? Did their arcs get a satisfying conclusion?
That was another weak point. The Mind Flayer, the big bad from the start, it just didn't really evolve. It basically tried the exact same invasion tactic as in Season 3. For cosmic intelligence, it didn't seem to learn its lesson.
And the big showdown, 11 versus Vecna.
It looked incredible. The setup was great, the location, 11's whole Goku-style pose was an amazing shot. But the fight itself, it felt short, almost cheap. After seasons of build-up, for it to be over that quickly just felt a little anticlimactic.
Okay, shifting away from the plot to the characters themselves, some arcs really landed well, but there were some big shifts in focus.
For sure. Steve Harrington's arc was, I think, a huge success. He completed that transformation from the huggle jock to this protector, the mommy Steve of the group. It felt really earned.
But the biggest shift, the one everyone was talking about, was the sudden spotlight on Will Byers.
Oh, absolutely. Will got maybe the top 3 biggest moments of the whole season,
Yeah.
especially in the finale where he really takes charge. It was a great move, I think, to bring it back to him, to remind us that he's the one who started all this and he deserved a hand in finishing it.
So if Will was elevated, what did that mean for 11, the traditional hero?
It meant she was not there in the same way she usually is. She's crucial to beating Vecna, of course, but she's not the singular fix-it solution anymore. And that seems intentional. The creators wanted to show that the group, the family, had grown. They didn't need to just hide behind Elle's powers. It was a collective victory.
A better ensemble ending, maybe, but a less epic moment for the main hero.
That's the trade-off.
We have to talk about the biggest piece of wasted potential, though, the new military character.
Oh, yeah. Linda Hamilton, an absolute legend. You bring in the star of Terminator 2 to play an army leader, and your expectations are through the roof.
And she, literally did nothing.
Pretty much. Her character was so underutilized, it was baffling. The prevailing theory is that the whole military subplot got slashed late in the game, maybe for budget reasons or something, but it left her character feeling completely hollow and made the global threat feel much smaller.
So after all this, after diving into the structure, the characters, the expectations, what's the final verdict?
I mean, the ending was a success. It was entertaining. It wrapped up all the stories. It gave the characters we love a happy, definitive ending. It wasn't a failure. But because they played it so safe, because they chose stability over real permanent stakes, it just fell short of what it could have been. It's a high A-, but it's not the A++ that makes history.
Right. It leaves you with that feeling of, what if? What if they had pushed it just a little bit further, taken one more big risk?
Exactly. And that leaves a really interesting question for you, the listener, to think about. When a show runs this long and you get this invested, is it better for the creators to guarantee a happy ending, to protect the characters and give the audience that satisfaction? Or is the painful sacrifice of a beloved character sometimes necessary to create something truly legendary, something that achieves that undisputed high-stakes legacy?
The eternal dilemma for any storyteller. Well, thank you for diving deep into the end of an era with us today.
Keep exploring and keep thinking about the stories you love. We'll catch you on the next one.